Hello everyone, this is Raghunandhana. My research topic is study of terrorist attacks in Middle East and North Africa. One of the common threat to people is a terrorist attack. Almost every country, including United States, has been a victim of some terrorist attack at some point. Terrorist attacks have significant negative impact on social, economic, and political structure of the world, even the religious structure. Although we all want all the terrorist attacks to be prevented before it can happen, but it is also important to understand and analyze what needs to be done after a terrorist attack to reduce the damage that has already occurred or it might occur. So, why did I choose to focus on Middle East and North Africa? So when I looked at the data set of terrorist attacks, most of the terrorist attacks, like or more than 30% of the terrorist attacks were in this particular region, and this region had the highest number of people killed, injured, and highest number of terrorist groups active, and there were variety of terrorist attacks that were carried out. There were more than 100 columns in the data set that I found. So I reduced it only to 20 columns and filtered it to the region to have only those data that is relevant to this analysis. This CSV file was then converted into shape file to so that it can be used to create visualizations in ArcGIS. Let's move on to the next section. Problem statement is straightforward. Hundreds of people are killed every year because of terrorist attacks, and not just of attacks, but also because of lack of effective emergency response to handle the consequences that happen after the attacks. Coming to goals, the big picture is to help policymakers in developing an effective emergency response procedure that will reduce the aftermath caused by terrorist attacks. And the objectives are to visualize number of people killed, number of people wounded. So, what are the type of attacks that have been occurring? What are the types of weapons that are used in these attacks? What are the terrorist groups that are active in this region? What are their success or failure rate? And what are the hotspots of the terrorist attacks in Middle East and North Africa? Let's move on to the next section. When I was looking for the related work and literature reviews on terrorist attacks in this particular region, most of the work that I found was quantitative or statistical. There were just tables with all the data. So this research will analyze and provide visualizations of different aspects of terrorist attacks, which in the long term will save lives and also give a strong message to terrorists that the world will not bow down to terrorism. The potential benefits of this research is dependent on how these visualizations will be used by policymakers to understand and analyze the attacks and devise preventive measures to prevent such attacks in the future. And also, it can be used by relief of organizations like UNICEF to improve the emergency response, which will help not only in saving the lives of people, but also help people in recovering from mental trauma that they have to go through because of losing their closed ones or because of what they've seen during the terrorist attacks. Coming to the methodologies that I'll be using in this study, there will be heat maps, and I'll be performing incremental spatial analysis, hotspot analysis for attributes like number of people killed, number of people wounded, and number of attacks, And I'll also be performing inverse distance weighted interpolation for the hotspot analysis measure attributes that I carried out. Coming to the literature review section, the first article I found was the French Emergency Medical Service after the Paris terrorist attack. So this article is very interesting. It speaks about how the terrorist attacks on Paris in 2015 was analyzed to improve the emergency response system in France. So the second paper is terrorist attack and target diversity, chain points and the drivers. So this article speaks about how the nature of attacks and targets have changed over years, which studying the past history of the attacks will help us in understanding the future attacks and will help in preventing them from happening. And the third paper I found is quantitative research on global terrorist attacks and the classification. So in this paper, the author has developed a mathematical model to understand the level of impact of each terrorist attack, and based on this information, the terrorist attacks with highest impact were identified. Here you are looking at one of the hotspot analysis that I'll be producing for this research analysis. So this is an hotspot analysis on the number of kills in of terrorists from terrorist attacks in Middle East and North African region. So this is for only one of the attributes. So there are several attributes. So I'll be performing heat maps, incremental spatial analysis, and hotspot analysis, and IDW for some of the attributes, and more such similar outputs will be produced in the end result. That was it. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.